We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Hello, welcome to IBD Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other host, Michelle Harvey, and I am Mason's mom and also in the role of a caregiver. If you've been listening, we are on episode 5.
Wow.
Which is, pretty cool.
Impressive. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I remember thinking, I didn't even know if we get through episode 1. We held up for so long to start, and now it's kind of cool. It's like we're actually doing this. So today's episode is going to be focused on IBD, but also for some other people who can relate who just have food sensitivities. This might help you too. So we're going to talk to you about simple tips and tricks to help you monitor your IBD symptoms, and also use any of these tips for if you have food sensitivities or if your child does, and if it's, this might be something that can help you. Yeah. So, and when we say for IBD, we're looking for food triggers for us. Yeah. And that's food important. Triggers. Yeah, because for some people with this disease, this is where I think it can vary so widely, because Mason's disease cannot be controlled by food or diet. And there's a very big misconception about that. We hear that a lot, where people think that Crohn's disease can be, managed by food. And there are some people with Crohn's disease who do say this is the case. And that's interesting to me, because that's not our situation. Just want to acknowledge that some of you listening are going to have different situations, and we're not, trying to shut anyone out. We're just focusing on Mason. And so for him, it is food triggers that we focus on, something that could trigger him into a flare. And
to let everyone know, remember, everyone with Crohn's disease is different.
Yeah, that's very important to him, actually, because I think a lot of times people, when they meet you and they talk to you, they assume right away that you're just like somebody they know. And this poor kid, he hears it all the time. It's like, oh, don't worry. If you just do this. And he's like, no. Politely.
Yeah, I'll try.
And later on, I'll talk to you about it. And it's like, gosh, so we're like on this mission to just help open the public's eye to seeing that this disease can vary so much.
Spread word.
Yeah. We're going to start this off a little different, because sometimes we just go right into the episode, and we're going to, I guess, have some fun and talk about a challenge of the week, because we realized, I think we face a lot of them. We've gotten so used to it.
Oh, another challenge.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, I think all of you probably had something this week that was a challenge. But for us, it's something Crohn's related. And we run into these all the time, and we just kind of get used to it and roll with it. And we had a memorial to go to, and it was very important that we be there. And it's some in the past, it's been tough. We haven't been able to go because they've been indoor events where people are eating, and there's a lot of people close together. And for Mason, because he's immunosuppressed, we have to be careful with that. So we always have to ask a lot of questions and figure out if this is something we can do. Thankfully, with this one, we were able to. And they did have a lunch afterwards,
which we couldn't go to.
Yeah, we couldn't go to, which was such a bummer, because
it wasn't anyone's fault. It's just Crohn's disease doesn't. My biologics really don't like me going into places and eating.
And so I think what people don't see is how hard it is for us. We want to be with our family. We want to be with our friends.
Yeah.
And just kind of decompress after an event like that. And to not be able to do that is really tough. So we kind of compromised. So we followed everybody to the restaurant where it was held. And it was one of the places Mason loved.
One of my favorite places I used to go before the hospital.
Yeah. And so
before 2020.
Yeah. And so we were, we went there, and we were able to say hi to everybody and pass out we'd made cookies for people. And so we passed those out, and then we left, and they all ate together and celebrated my uncle's life. And at least we felt like we were a part of it in the way we could participate.
We were in it as long as we were able to be in it.
Right. And it was, it was sad for us. We also are thankful for what we were able to make work. And that's kind of what you do. So that was kind of a challenge that
was the weekly challenge.
Yeah, that was our weekly challenge. I'm sure we'll have more to share all the time.
Yeah.
We also wanted to share something because we were wearing in our last episode, if you're watching us on YouTube, for those of you listening to us, you have no idea. And we had some shirts made because we have something that we call karmitude, which is putting an attitude out into the world of what you want to see and, putting some kindness out there. And anyways, you want to show I'll let Mason model it. So
this is my shirt.
So it's courage and kindness, which is kindness. Something that we really, kind of, I think, encompasses this whole battle with Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
And the year on it, we have 2020, as you can see, and San Diego, California. That was the year and the place where he was diagnosed. And we have a wave, and it says one wave at a time. This is to give credit to Rolf Benershka, a friend of ours now.
Rolf Benershka, he's a very cool person.
Yeah. And
check him out.
He had reached out to me when Mason was first diagnosed. And if you look him up, seriously, I recommend you Google him because he's an incredible human being.
He's a very good person.
And so he had given me some advice because at the time I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so he was like, Michelle, you can't take all the waves at once. You can choose one and write it in and then go back out and choose another wave. And it was like, oh yeah, we don't.
Because at the time when we're in the hospital, I was having so many things done. Yeah. It was so much to all take at once.
Right.
So
it's like you're looking at that big picture and it's like, it's too much.
With the one wave at a time, you focus on one challenge. Then once you finish that challenge, you go to the next challenge.
Right.
And it helps. It helps me. It might not feel like it helps other people, but mentally it really helps me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the saying too.
So so one wave at a time. And so this is our Karmitude shirts, which we were super stoked on. So we finally have them. We designed them and hope you guys like them too. Yeah. They're not for sale or anything like that. This is just for us. But some people have asked, and if we get enough interest, we'll see if we can arrange for any of our family or friends to purchase them. But for now, there was just something special for us because we wear our team shirts, like we've said before. When we go to the hospital,
we all wear our team shirts.
We all wear our team shirts. So this is something else we can wear, and putting some good thoughts and messages out into the world because it needs it. So also we are doing a giveaway. So yay!
Today's a special episode,
and we will go more into that at the end of the episode. So I think though you'll catch on.
Pretty
sure as you hear us talking about this, you'll catch on to what it is. So let's jump into the episode. And, how many of you listening have food sensitivities? Something that maybe you're even unaware of, something that you're eating and you don't feel well afterwards. It doesn't sit well with you. You're not sure what it is. Or you have something that maybe it's dairy, maybe it's gluten, something like that. But to get there is sometimes a struggle because we eat so much there's so many different things we eat. We go out to restaurants, fast food. Some people eat a lot of fast food, and some people, they cook at home. So depending on what you do, sometimes it is hard to figure out what could be causing that food sensitivity. And the way that we can relate this to IBD is like for Mason, it's a food. It could be a food trigger for him. So for like Mason, a flare, can be caused sometimes by it's not always the fault of anything. They're not entirely sure actually what causes these. So for some people though, with IBD, they've determined that eating a certain food can be a food trigger. So food triggers can potentially cause a flare. And for Mason, fortunately, we haven't discovered that yet, but he's also on biologics that are helping keep the inflammation under control.
Yeah.
So for him, that's his particular situation. I know some of you listening are going, oh my gosh, I have so many triggers. There's so many things I can't eat. And I'm really sorry for you guys because I know that does exist. And I think, there's some people try to control this only with diet and avoiding any triggers, but unfortunately, food triggers are not the only thing that cause flares. There's other issues with IBD. But if you're on biologics that are really helping balance your system, with Mason, we found that he can really eat anything, which is really good because he needed to gain weight.
For some people, you have to try to help Crohn's with diet and biologics.
Right. And that can be challenging. And from a caregiver standpoint, if you're preparing the food and for the patient, it's really annoying because
it kind of feels like the biologics aren't really helping because you aren't free to eat what you want.
Right. Because there's a lot of different diets that people follow out there to help them. And, for some it helps, for some it doesn't. So with this disease, what we found is you just really have to monitor yourself and really figure out what are these triggers for you. But again, this is not to put the blame on anybody either, because this disease just rears its head and it's the fault of nobody. It's not caused by something necessarily. So we try to avoid anything we think could do it, but then sometimes it just is. That's the problem with this disease. In life, monitoring symptoms is difficult because you have so many different appointments. You have work, school, and in our case, we homeschool. So I'm teaching.
So I was lucky, actually.
There are a lot of things going on in life, and I know all of you listening can relate to this. And so what happens is it gets difficult. You're trying to remember to pick up the medications, to make sure he gets all his treatments, to order injections, to schedule the appointments, just
with all that going on, you can almost kind of forget some of that stuff.
Yeah. And so if you're trying to along with all this, you're trying to monitor, diet, you're trying to monitor restroom changes, it can all kind of blur together. And that's not a good thing because you can miss things. For us, we really had to focus when Mason was first diagnosed on were there any food triggers? And we'd also heard about all these diets that were going on with people eating certain things, cutting out certain things, and it was all very overwhelming.
Confusing.
Yeah. And so the best thing that, we could think of is we needed to figure out Mason's own triggers. I mean, just think about this. Can you remember what you ate 3 days ago?
No.
Yeah, no. I'm sure any of you listening, can you remember what you drank at a certain time? And so it gets to be you think you'll remember, but
you don't.
You don't. So a very simple solution for us was to create a food log. And I know some of the people do this. There's apps, I believe, but for us,
that can do it.
Yeah, we wanted it to all be on one spot and we could all access it and take it easily with us. So I'll let you show it off. Here's what we came up with.
So this is the IBD food log.
Yeah.
And inside of it, you have...
Want me to hold it for you while you talk about it? See if I can kind of get it in focus. Okay.
So we have date, and then we have body weight. That's pointing. Body weight, which is very important with Crohn's disease, because body weight can change very fast.
Yes.
Depending on how healthy you are.
Yeah. And so that's important to monitor. And it seems like something, again, you will notice, but losing 5 pounds is not always noticeable and it can happen so fast. So it's important to have that weight, just not as a gauge for anything other than seeing if there's a trend downward. For us, we want to see if it's trending down. And if that starts to happen, you notice a pound is lost here, 2 pounds, then it's okay, it helps you start paying attention. And there's also the days on there. So you can circle what day of the week it is.
Monday.
And then you have all your meals.
You have breakfast. You have the food that you ate. You have the amount that you ate. And then you have the reaction if there was a reaction.
Right.
Good, bad.
So if you ate breakfast and something didn't agree with you, if it gave you stomach pain, or or even if you didn't know if the breakfast did, but you had pain or anything, you could mark it down here. So then you could start seeing a trend oh, wow.
If I eat a pancake, maybe my belly doesn't like it.
Yeah. And so it kind of will show you trends, and it shows your doctor trends, most importantly, because you can go over this, or your dietitian. Mason had a IBD dietitian And it would be helpful so we would be able to share these things. And then down at the
forgot
bottom,
what you ate,
yeah,
you could just go like, oh, right here it says I ate
right.
this.
You don't have to, it's no longer a burden on your mind, like trying to remember, so this is just something really simple. And yeah, we just created these and have these printed up, and they were so valuable, especially in the beginning. And even if you have food sensitivities, if you don't have IBD, this would be great if you're trying to figure out what is causing an issue. Yeah. Highly recommend doing something like this. And you can take it to your pediatrician as well and let them know what you're doing. Maybe they can give you tips or pointers as well. What else? And then at the bottom of this?
So at the bottom of this, we have total 8 ounces bottles of water per day. 8 ounces is the measurement usually by my doctor, at least.
We bought 8-ounce little like water bottles, and we would fill them up. Bottles. Yeah, and we would stock the fridge with them. And this way we knew like we would fill
water I would drink a day.
Yes, to make sure, instead of like, Mason, did you drink, how many water bottles were? So we knew how many water bottles were in the refrigerator in the morning. We would stock a certain amount, 8-ounce bottles, and we knew exactly how much he drank, because hydration is extremely important, because your intestines need that. Yeah. As well. So you're not dehydrated. And that's another sign, of things going wrong, is when your intestines aren't working correctly. So water is extremely important too, for multiple reasons, but that's just one of them. Yeah. But yeah. And then
same thing with just supplemental nutrition drinks. We have the same thing like the water. And then at the very bottom, we have, did you take all your vitamins? You have yes or no. So you remember if you took them all. Did you take all your pills? Yes or no. Any appetite changes, yes or no, because appetite changes can lead to weight loss. And
it sometimes, like for us, it's now that we know what we're looking for, we know that if he's not as hungry, and if, that could be the sign of something creeping up as well. And yeah. And also how many supplemental drinks? Because how many do you drink in a day now?
Now I drink 2. And when I got home from the hospital, I did like
3.
3, yeah.
I believe 3. And those are to help him gain weight, because for Mason,
it was hard to gain weight, because my body wasn't working right.
Right. And he needed to not only eat his meals, but we needed something in between that was going to help him. And we'll talk about that in another episode, actually, because those are a popular discussion. That's a popular discussion on its own. So for him, though, now he drinks 2. And when he was in the hospital, at one point he was drinking like 9 a day, because he was on a liquid diet only. And so, some kids have an NG tube where it goes directly into their stomach. But he chose to just,
liquid diet.
He was crazy. He was able to drink all of those. They were pretty skeptical about it. He's like, oh no,
I'll do it.
I
don't want an NG tube.
Yeah. So, and he did. So for quite a while, he was drinking like 9 a day.
Not that NG tubes are bad.
No. And but at the time there was so much going on. He was like, nope, not one more thing. No. So sometimes it's inevitable. But at that point he chose to drink them, and he was able to. This for us was something we could refer to, hold on to. We had so many of these.
You could bring it to the doctors and show them exactly everything, what happened that day, not try to guess what happened.
Right. So it's great for kind of monitoring triggers. It's great for monitoring potential flare issues coming. And if you are just someone who's trying to track food sensitivity and figure out what's causing some kind of reaction, these are great too. Yeah. And it's very important with IBD to monitor any changes. Yeah. And restroom changes are a huge one for these guys. And you again, this is one of those things you would think, oh, we'll remember. But for IBD patients, sometimes some people may go up to like 15 times.
And then 2 the next day.
It can vary. And so it's
very, very rapidly.
Right. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the food log too. Yeah. So these are where you can see these changes and correlate it to your food log, and also see if there is maybe something you ate that caused this. And if it's not, if all of a sudden you're having this constantly, this issue, and it doesn't matter what you're eating, that helps too. Okay, this isn't a trigger. This is probably a flare. And we use these this was important for Mason, because some kids don't like, obviously, it's not like they like to talk about it. You want to you want to give your kids a little bit of freedom, but at the same time, you also have to be diligent and make sure you're checking and make sure everything's okay. So Mason was well trained on what to look for. Anybody who goes to their Crohn's appointments is
doctor's office.
They're familiar with the Bristol stool chart. And so they will ask it every time. And so Mason was very well versed in this. So he could identify what type it was. He would type any changes. And we'll show you, we have 2 sizes that we made. We have 2 different ones. We have like this one. Yeah.
We have this small one. IBD journal.
Yeah. And so these are pretty simple. We can let you explain it, me.
So in here we have the days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it goes through the entire week. You write the time when you went and the type.
Right. And down here, you'll see we have like a little chart for the type. So you can either use some of the abbreviations we came up with, or you can create your own.
And you can write notes too.
Right.
Because we really want to do that. We really want to write notes about this stuff.
or drawings. I mean, whatever you want, I guess.
If you're sitting there and you want to draw, you can draw in the notes area. I do that sometimes.
There's also a spot where you can mark for if you had any abdominal pain or soreness. So you mark that down too, and along with the day. So
this abdominal pain is important to mark.
So for us, this made it really simple because
easy to remember.
We would show it to the doctor and she could see right away, you can just by looking at it.
Good.
Yeah. And then we had our food log so we could say, here, this and that. And so this journal, I believe they may have something like this online too. And I do believe they have apps for that. So if you look into it, but for us, we wanted something we could set in the bathroom that didn't move, just stayed there. And we could all check it. We could easily bring it to the doctor. So for us, kind of old school
book style
was like the preferred way. It worked really well. And his doctor really appreciated these. I think these would be great for pediatricians or even, adult doctors to have as well. Because when Mason went in 2019, it was a year before he was diagnosed.
Yeah.
He was having symptoms. And at the time, it didn't seem like it was like hit and miss when you would have these issues. And so it seemed like it was diet related and it wasn't consistent. And so it was like, okay, there's something he's eating. And so we had tried, removing lactose and
tried removing gluten.
Yeah, that was at the suggestion of the doctor. She thought it was probably a gluten intolerance. And something like one of these books, I think would have been so helpful because I think the greatest thing she could have done is asked us to fill one out and come back and see her, maybe like in a month. And maybe Mason would have felt more comfortable talking about things because that was part of it too. Mason wasn't exactly forthcoming.
Oh yeah, so today
he just, like he said, he just wanted to be normal. So he kept hoping that
I want to be silent about it and like maybe it will go away.
Yeah.
Maybe magic.
And so I think if a doctor can convince some, if it's like, here, instead of having to talk about it and something like this, you can write it down and maybe that would help. It would have been nice to probably be able to have a way to kind of track it and see what was going on instead of trying to remember how many times he had that issue and what. So that's why I say this isn't just for IBD. This can be for anything. If you're trying to identify something, but first of all, talk to your pediatrician. Before you just jump into, if there are food sensitivities, I always recommend talk to your pediatrician, before you start trying to figure out yourself. And then, if you talk to your pediatrician, these might be able to use hand in hand with it for you to kind of monitor symptoms and bring that up with your doctor, like say, hey, would this help? I think it would be a great help. If you haven't guessed by now,
the giveaway is the journals.
Yes. So
you guessed, congratulations.
When this episode is going to air, we'll post it on Instagram and we will also post it on Facebook. I put on my personal Facebook page if you're following me there, but the main way to enter will be through Instagram. So it's at Team IB Determined is our Instagram name. And when we post this episode, go ahead and make sure that you like the post, comment on it, and make sure you're following us and you will be entered and we'll send them to you. So you just, whoever wins, we will send you the food log and the IBD journal. and it's all yours. So for a bonus entry, if you are subscribed to us on YouTube and
you leave a comment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That'll give you a bonus.
Maybe click the bell.
that would be fun too. That only benefits you because you get notifications. Yeah. But if you are following us, if you're a subscriber on YouTube, and if you make a comment, that'll get you a bonus entry. But otherwise, it'll be through Instagram. So with that, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. If you're not, there's all kinds of cool stuff because it really follows our life and our journey with chronic illness. And just, I think it's hopefully an inspirational site for you guys. But that's Team IB Determined on Instagram. And on YouTube, we are IB Determined. And I'll let you say the
like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, he's done. So we are done. He's like, we're done. We'll see you in the next episode, which we will, because that's about it for today. So thank you guys. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Don't forget to watch. It's very exciting.
Stay tuned. Bye.
Bye. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.